Hello, this is Adelaide Eternal. You're with Sarva McClinton bringing you another Highlander deck tech. Today we're looking at Built from Scrap. So it's a red shops deck looking at Mishra's Workshop, City of Traitors, Ancient Tomb, all tapping for 2 or 3 mana. Tolarian Academy tapping for crazy amounts of mana. These rocks, Crypt and Soul Ring tapping for 2 mana. And all of these acceleration pieces basically coming out alongside your lands to net you more mana ramp. And Voltaic Key untapping, Grim Monolith, Basalt Monolith tapping for more mana. Metal Worker tapping for 2, 4, 6 or 8 mana. Thran Dynamo, a commander card in this deck. It ends up being really good. And Deserted Temple letting you untap your lands and tap them again for more mana. So this is a ridiculous amount of mana. What do we do with the mana? Over here we have Ugin, we have Khan, 2 powerful planeswalkers that you can power out very early in the game to take it over. All is dust to stabilize yourself, so you're usually having colorless permanents here. You've only got a very small number of red permanents, so the occasional time where you kill one of your permanents with All is Dust, it's going to be destroying a whole bunch of your opponent's stuff. Sundering Titan destroys your opponent's lands as well, not only when it comes into play, but also when it leaves play. So you can sacrifice this to one of your sack outlets, or you can just allow them to have an answer for it, otherwise they get killed by a 7/10. Platinum Angel stops you from losing the game. Mere Battlesphere gives you an army of little dorks. And Wormcoil Engine, the classic guy that, unless they have a path to exile, is just going to give you pure value. Steel Hellkite, really great at destroying your opponent's permanents when he bashes in. And Mindslaver, of course, giving you some crazy little interactions, allowing you to, say, sack your opponent's permanents to one of their sack outlets or do other ridiculous things. And at worst case scenario, it's usually a time walk. Batterskull is the least impressive of your powerful Haymaker cards, and that's saying something. So all the other land sources, these aren't really used to power out these crazy threats because they just tap for 1 mana, but they usually do something else, i.e. be an artifact to power Tolarian Academy, or destroy your opponent's key lands, and creatures, so you can just make blockers with Kher Keep. You can turn Mishra's Factory into a beater, and Rishadan Port taps your opponent's lands down to prevent them from being able to counterspell something during your turn. Buried Ruin is really good at returning that key artifact, and Gate Wreckage really nice at saying essentially 4 mana, draw a card. So what's the support, the glue that holds this deck together? We've got the ramp, we've got what we ramp into. Now we've got the little bits and pieces. So Expedition Map finds you Tolarian Academy or Mishra's Workshop, whatever you need to power out extra mana. Sensei's Divining Top is essentially a card tutor in a way, tutoring through the top 3 cards in your deck. And then you've got actual pure card advantage through Staff of Nin. If you power this out on turn 2, you're going to be basically drawing 2 cards a turn, same as with Coercive Portal. Just always choose Homage, and then you're just going to be drawing extra cards. Crucible of Worlds is pseudo card advantage because it essentially lets you play lands from your graveyard, and one of the biggest targets for your opponent's wasteland effects is going to be Tolarian Academy or Mishra's Workshop. Trading Post is a cute little card here that allows you to do anything that you need at the particular time, whether you need to create a blocker and gain life, or whether you need to just get some cards. Duretti is a really nice piece in this deck. I believe he was actually in the commander deck that Built from Scrap was named after. So for those of you who don't know, this is essentially an upgrade of an old commander deck. And the commander deck was a mono red deck, and it just turns out that you can actually build this in Highlander with super gassed up cards like these, and it's insane. So Duretti is kind of like a Goblin Welder, letting you sack artifacts to return artifacts to the battlefield, and what better way to do that than interacting between, say, a mere Battlesphere token to return the mere Battlesphere itself, which might have been destroyed, or a Wormcoil Engine token to return the Wormcoil Engine, or any combination of any of these crazy things. So here we've got the cards that basically hate on your opponent. So Lodestone Golem hates on your opponent's curve, so really good against control. Blood Moon hates on their lands, of course, and Rolling Earthquake lets you reset that board when you can't actually ramp into an all is dust for everything. Usually wrathing away their mana dorks sets them back enough turns for you to take over the game. Duplicant gets rid of one of their key creatures, and Thought Not Seer, obviously the key cards in their hand. This is one of the ways that you can actually interact with combo decks. Smokestack is really, really good, just like the vintage build of the deck. Same with Trinisphere and Tangle Wire. These are all great vintage throwbacks to keep your opponent down. And last of all, we've got the eclectic selection here of useful cards. So anytime you need to, you can copy the appropriate card that you need, essentially doubling it, and Kuldotha Forgemaster searches out the key piece that you need. Goblin Welder returns things from the graveyard like Daretti, and Lightning Greaves lets all of these things have haste. So you had your Metalworker back here, and Goblin Welder there, some of the best targets along with Kuldotha Forgemaster. Rings of Brighthearth lets you combo with some of your things, and one of the most popular combos you'll see is that with Basalt Monolith for infinite mana. You usually don't need infinite, you might need 10 or 11 or 12, and that'll get you the game. But Rings of Brighthearth does even better work by just copying the abilities of other permanents that you activate. In the sideboard, we have these separated out into what you bring in against control. Control hates defense grid, obviously, but Winter Orb is really, really good against them, especially since you can untap one land, which might be, say, Tolarian Academy, and still generate crazy amounts of mana. The Spheres and Thorns are also good against them, as are Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Just hold down those key blue spells. Against the creature decks and also the greedy 4-color value decks, Magus of the Moon does a little bit of work alongside Blood Moon, as does Torpor Orb, stopping all their comes into play value abilities. Silent Arbiter is not only a great way of stopping them from attacking with a swarm, but also he's an insane blocker because he's a 1/5, and Ensnaring Bridge also does similar work, keeping your opponent's big creatures down instead. These are your useful spot removal pieces, so Spine and Chaos Warp get rid of that key combo piece, whether they've got some kind of Dark Depths combo and you need to shuffle away the Marit Lage token, that'll work for you. And Vandal Blast is extremely good in the mirror, but sometimes you can just kill both a Skull Clamp and a artifact-based creature, or 2 artifacts, 2 equipments, and it's really nice. And otherwise, a bit of graveyard hate never goes astray when you got Bazaar of Baghdad in this format. So if you've liked this deck, have a go, sleeve it up, enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and we're Adelaide Eternal. Feel free to tune in for another Deck Tech.